All right, let's do this thing. Hinterlands cards for this design contest thing, whatever you call it. I'm going to try to remember to talk loud enough. Um, yeah, so I think I have it at a good level that if I just, don't mumble like I am now and talk normally or at a reasonably like I was talking to you from, halfway across the room, a quarter way, normal distance. If I talk that loud, it should be fine like I am now. Anyway, on to the cards. I have not seen them yet this time. This is my first impression. Although, to be fair, I've been testing audio for a couple minutes, so I've sort of seen the first, like, one or two. But anyway, uh, Palanquin? Palanquin? I don't know how to say that. Anyway, okay, it's an action, costs 5, it's non-terminal, and it lets you discard an action to draw cards per cost, per coin it cost, I should probably say, but anyway. Um, all right. Okay. Okay. Um, what have we here? So, I guess it's sort of like Apprentice, right? Except instead of trashing the action, you merely discard it. Right? It's basically what it does, and it only works on actions. Um, which makes me think it's definitely not too powerful, I don't think. Um, yeah, I mean, I think it's a reasonable card. Um, it's not super exciting because it seems sort of close to Apprentice, and it can't do non. Well, I mean, if you let it do victory cards, people are just going to plunk their provinces all the time, so that's no good because you're just discarding it. Um, but well, so it's sort of close to Apprentice. It seems sort of narrow because normally you'd rather play those other action cards, and so it's a little bit unexciting from that point of view. But probably the bigger thing is it doesn't feel at all Hinterlandsy to me. Anyway, moving on. Tribe costs 3. It's an action. 2 actions and a money, so that gives you, the Squire Village benefit, which is actually not great. Look at the top 2 of your deck, discard 1, and put the other anywhere in your deck. That seems like a bit of a strange wording to me. But okay, that probably makes it a 2 cost. Um, yeah, I don't think it would make it better than a 2 cost, but let's look at the below the line. When you buy it, you may discard a card. If you do, plus a buy and 2 money. Okay. Yeah, I definitely thought about doing that, a similar kind of effect. It's perhaps more interesting on a card this cheap than what I was looking at. It doesn't quite get you a second one of these, but it's sort of close. Um, and if you were going to buy some 2 cost for 3, you can throw this in for free. Yeah, I think that makes it pretty good. I sort of like this. I'm not so sure about the anywhere in your deck, but I reasonably like this. Alright, Quagmire. It's a estate that when you get it, you can trash 3 cards from a supply pile. Okay, so supply trashing has come up before. This card is actually disgustingly powerful. Being able to trash 3 provinces is just actually really good. Um, in fact, you open double this and the game could just be over on like turn 3. Yeah, supply trashing is a very powerful effect. Now, if it was just one, then I don't think it would be very good. Although even then it would be, you'd have to think about it sometimes. Um, because it can hit provinces, I don't like it at all. Now, if you adjusted it to where it would have to be a kingdom pile, then maybe you're looking at something. Although then I'm not sure that it's really going to be worth it. So I don't know. Maybe you can do something with it, but it's a good ways off from that right now. All right, Hinterland. Action costs 4. Swap the cards in your hand with the cards on your Hinterland mat. When you gain it, gain a silver, putting it on your Hinterland mat. Okay, first of all, it introduces a new mat, so I'm already not a fan. But, okay, forgetting that for a moment. So, let's see, how does this... So, I get it the first time, and then I have to trade my hand for a silver. Or maybe 2 silvers or 3 silvers if I get a few of these. Something like that. Then I'm all the time just swapping out for another hand or for an old hand or that hand plus a... That seems really weak. I mean, maybe if you mask them up, but the other thing is it's terminal. Which makes it seem really weak. If it were non-terminal, I still think it would be weak. And just also not that interesting. You're just swapping hands around for other hands. Plus silver? That's not very exciting to me. Okay, Pilgrimage. Oh, by the way, I should have mentioned I do have a card as one of these too, so I have seen that one also. Okay, Pilgrimage. Plus an action, plus 2 buys. Okay, while it's in play, when you gain a victory card, victory cards cost 1 less, but not less than 0. So, isn't that just bad? I guess maybe if you have an engine going, you can play a few of these. Let's see. You have an engine going which can get you... Well, you need at least 3 money to get this going. So if you have 3 coppers in your deck, plus you're drawing your deck, you buy a bunch of these. Let's see. If I get 4 of these in play, I can buy an estate for 2, an estate for 1. So 4 of these is 6 buys. Then a estate for 0, estate for... Yeah, it's going to take a lot of them. So that's not really going to work as a strategy. But let's see, if I have an engine that just makes some amount of money. Let's say you're making 12 money or something, I don't know. Playing one of these, I can now go province, duchy, and then estates for free. So if I play, let's see, okay. It seems the only time this is really going to be useful is on a mega turn. And if I'm going for a mega turn, how much money does it get me? Well, let's see. If I have 5 of them in play, then every victory card... Well, yeah, if I get 5 of them in play, that's great. What if I just get 2? 2 of these, 2 money. It gives me 3 5 buys, right? I can buy estate, estate for 0. Now everything's reduced by 4. Estate for 0, everything's reduced by 6. estate for 0, and province for 0. That's interesting. Three of them, and you really start to get going, right? 3 of these, 2 coppers is estate for 2, estate for 0, estate for 0, estate for 0. So, and then I've used 4 buys and I have 3 left for provinces. Yeah. 1 more copper. 1 more of these and it's insane, right? 4 of these, it's... No, wait. 3 of these, it's 1, 2, 3 estates and 4 provinces. Yeah, if you can get 3 of these, it's just very strong. But 1 of them is very weak. I sort of like that as a cheap potion cost card, maybe. No, I don't. I like it as the reverse of a potion. I don't know. I wish it was a little better with just 1. It's definitely terrible. So it's like the opposite of what you want as a... Well, I don't know. Yeah, it's an interesting effect, though. You maybe can do something with it. Alright, consulate. Plus 3 cards, plus an action, discard 2. So that's just like warehouse, but up a card. That's gotta be really, really good. Right? And when you gain it, each other player gains a copper, putting it in hand. Which is probably more of a drawback than a plus for them. Although, so you're probably, if you're getting this early, in the mid game is probably the worst. I don't know. I don't think it needs that though. I guess that makes it Hinterlandsy, but 3 cards, an action, discard 2, I think is probably just way too strong for 4. I think it's probably even a little bit better than your cartographer effect most of the time. And that's a reasonable 5 cost. This could cost 5. And I thought of doing almost this exact card with 1 fewer card to draw and 1 fewer to discard as a 5 cost. And I think it'll be fine, but not super wowsing. Okay. Trade agreement. It's a 5 cost smithy. While it's in play, and you get another one, then you get a card costing up to 5. So it builds on itself a lot and helps you make an engine, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. That just doesn't seem terribly interesting to me. It's fine, I'm sure. Yeah, I don't like that it has to be in play and you get another one, but um, I'm sure it's actually a totally fine card. It just doesn't say wow to me. Okay, Mountain Dwellers. It's a cantrip that if you have 3 or more treasures, turns into a peddler. That's less than stellar for 5. When you buy it, you may trash a treasure you have in play to gain... Ah, so you mine. Well, you sort of mine. Yeah, this should have an if you do clause, but we're going to assume that it will get there. So when you buy it, you get a better treasure. Which is alright, but 3 or more is... Yeah, I don't know. This just seems, again, a little bit wonky. I'm sure it's okay. A little weak, I think, at the moment. If you just change this to 2, it would be a lot better. Okay, Emerald Vein. That seems familiar to me. Action Victory, plus an action, so it's non-terminal, and it's worth a VP, and it makes a little bit of money. But that's not much money. I think this thing could cost 4 and it'd be interesting, right? Because, I mean, it's asking you to go all in on just getting lots of victory cards. and I guess it's in here mostly as a scout combo. But well, I guess it's probably largely like a silver with a VP tacked on. Um, if you're going for it heavily, it also helps you green. I don't know. That's a pretty interesting card. Maybe it could cost 4, maybe it couldn't. Maybe you could give it some other small buff, make it 2 VP instead of 1, or give it a plus buy. Plus buy would be interesting, I think, actually. I quite like the idea though, so that's a good for me. Okay, so cantrip, and then a seller. Okay. Um, and then when you gain it, you can reveal a cheaper card to gain a copy of that. So if you hold a silver back, you can get a silver. If you need more victory cards, you can always get extra of those. So that's pretty nice. I think I quite like that. I sort of like this as a sifter cantrip seller. Um, yeah. Just an extra card on seller is actually quite significant, I think. But then the major action happens below the line, which I like. By the way, I feel sort of bad because it's just sort of random, like which ones I like, but I guess that is the way it is with tastes. Okay, vendor. By the way, this was called Troglodyte Caves. I don't get that. Alright, anyway. Vendor. Costs 1. It is a ruined village that when you buy, you get 2 extra buys. So I very much don't like this card because it does nothing for you in your deck. It might as well just be a confusion, really. Maybe not quite. There's some interactions, you know. Scrying pool, this might be nice with. Probably not. Vineyards, obviously, yes. Yeah, what is the analysis? It's not good with scrying pool, actually. Although it's okay with scrying pool, it doesn't hurt much with scrying pool. But vineyards, it's good with, and that's about it. And then mostly it's in here to empty piles or be a source of extra buys. Well, I don't know that I'd be very happy if my slot for a kingdom card was replaced with this. And I guess maybe the designed purpose is so if you get your, you know, $26 hand or whatever, you can grab one of these and triple province or something. But I think most of the time it's going to be, yeah, I have 5 money, I can run the pile or something like that. I can get half the pile, I guess you still need. Yeah, but it doesn't take that much money to be able to run even a couple piles, right? I buy all 10 of these. That gives me, yeah. So not that much money, you can run a couple piles and end the game. I'm not a huge fan of that kind of effect, although this is probably one of the better implementations of it. Okay, artifact, spelled the cool way. Costs 2. Hey, cheap, cool. It's a cantrip, which you can then trash, discard, or put on or top deck a card. When you buy it, okay, I've definitely seen this. I feel like recently. Um, yeah, I'm so positive. So like cantrip trash a card is just $1 short of junk dealer or pretty close to upgrade, which is hellaciously good for 2. Um, yeah, I remember because I piped in on that this was worded wrong before. It was you gain it after the shuffle, and then I was concerned that it wasn't exactly clear whether that actually delayed you at all, say for in shenanigans, blah blah blah. Here it's, okay, it's worded clearly, but I don't know that, because you can also discard or top deck, it seems a little bit too good to me. I might cost it as 4. Um, and I don't know about the delayed gain thing. Yeah, I mean, maybe it's fine. It's just not my cup of tea. Alright, Ringleader is a $3 attack. It's interesting. Costs 3. I just said that, so I'm repeating myself. Oh, need to remember to talk louder. I hope that you've been able to hear all this stuff. Blah, 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 all that jazz. Okay, when you buy or play it, okay, interesting. Each player, including you, reveals the top 4 of his deck. Okay, it is an attack. Okay, great. Um, so it has the when you buy or play from Noble Brigand. And, well, why don't you just make the order what you choose also? I think that'd be nicer. Um, but this is a terminal? So discarding one of 4 cards and reordering the top 3 is suddenly worth a terminal 3? Even getting to do it on all of them. I guess you gotta make their cards miss a shuffle pretty often. But that seems like a prime uh, thing for a 2-cost card, or to make it non-terminal and make it cost more, or yeah, I don't know. It's sort of an interesting effect, although I have a feeling that in play, having all your decent cards miss a shuffle all the time would be super annoying, even if this isn't very good. Sort of a la Saboteur. Um, and right now, I think it really isn't very good. So, not the highest on my list. Okay, River Song. Um, worth 2 VP. When you gain it during your turn, is that simply an anti-possession clause? That's all it seems like to me. Okay, all cards except victory cards cost 2 less this turn, but not less than 0. So it's another bi-phase cheapener mechanic. And okay, when you can't during your turn. So okay, 2 VP for 3, as we've seen on Tunnel, is reasonable anyway. Non-victory cards are cheaper. Does that have any interaction that we can use? We can now do cooler stuff with our trash for benefit on our victory cards, maybe? Yeah, that seems like a pretty marginal effect. Because normally you're only going to have your estates in terms of being able to do that. All cards except victory cards cost 2 less this turn, but not less than 0. So your actions and your treasures are a lot cheaper. But so that's sort of interesting, but I think the problem here is I would actually like it if the victory cards were cheaper too. Because you need a couple of buys, and then you have to get this first for it to be worth much. So yeah, I think you could actually just make it. In fact, I think I would like it if it were only victory cards being cheaper. Better than it is now. Because now what it is you buy this in the phase of the game where you're still trying to build your deck, which just seems strange. Or I guess if you have a bunch of extra buys and you need victory cards, then you can help deflate your greening and you get this, but that seems pretty marginal. Okay, factory. Okay. It's an action reaction. It costs 4, and it's non-terminal discarding a non-victory to gain a copy. Well, that's sort of like a non-terminal workshop. Um, but the issue is you have to discard it, so that's roughly sort of like it was terminal. Um, very roughly. So that's an interesting enough effect. Um, when you gain a card, you may reveal it from your hand and put it onto your deck to put the gained card in your hand. So you have to cycle this through. Huh. This has to go back on your deck, so you're going to have to take it the next turn. And you get to put the gained card in your hand, which, well, it seems pretty weak, because normally you're gaining in your buy phase, in which case having that on your hand, in your hand doesn't help you at all, so you just wouldn't reveal this. I'm trying to figure out when you'd ever reveal this. I'm sure the idea is that it combos with itself, but does it really? Like two of these and another card that's cheap enough, and you can basically top deck one of them to just gain, not in hand, the other card, because you had to discard one and then you got the other one in hand. Which I guess would be good on a 5 or a 6, but seems sort of narrow. So the whole below the line thing just doesn't seem very impressive to me. But the above the line, how did I not realize that this wasn't limited to cards costing 4 or less? I don't know. The above the line I think is just interesting enough that I like the card, but I don't like the reaction, so there's that. Okay, Sanctuary. Sanctuary is plus 2 cards, discard 2 cards, which is pretty weak. It's like a warehouse with a fewer card and it's terminal. So what is it that makes it a 5 cost? Below the line. When you gain it, set aside a card from your hand. Return it to your deck at the end of the game. So it's a island effect? That seems, just getting the island effect. Now you do get it right away, so that's nice. But the main effect just seems too weak. Either make it non-terminal, although then you're looking at in territory, sort of. Or, although it's got to just be weaker effect than in anyway. The below the line I think is weaker than the in's effect. So I would probably look at like making it 3 cards, something like that. And just the island effect doesn't make it super interesting for me anyway. All right. So, okay, Workers' Cooperative. It is a terminal gold which gives a buy. That's plenty reasonable, although I don't think it's broken. Maybe a little bit above the curve, but I'm actually not sure. Yeah, it's probably a little, but not much. While it's in play, when you buy a card, each other player may gain a card costing less than it. That is a huge drawback. This is very much like one of the cards we saw last week, and that is a huge drawback. This card is terrible. Just because, well, I guess maybe it's not terrible, right? You get some 5 costs with it, and they have to gain 4 or less, which is reasonable but not great. But this card just needs to be more powerful, I think. Or it's interesting, though. I like it better than the one from last week. Okay, Smelter. It's an action that is a terminal copper with a buy, or a poor woodcutter. What's the below the line? So when you buy something, you get a top deck of silver. you have to top deck a silver. So whenever you play this, you get to top deck 2 silvers, at least. Um, that seems pretty good, but then this is a bad card to have around, and well, you're gaining some extra coppers for that, so it's a lot of cost to pay to get the effect. The other hand, could probably make a decent deck out of money in this. Not really an engine card, because you just don't want that many silvers, I don't think. Although it sort of has that weird merchant guild kind of effect, where at the end of the game you can play this and then buy a few things and be able to province the next turn as well to follow up and transition out of an engine maybe. Yeah, I actually sort of like this card. That's probably because it fits my playstyle. Okay, Witch Doctor. Costs for terminal copper. Look through your deck and discard any victory and curse cards you want to from it, and then shuffle your deck. So if you get this at the top of your shuffle, then you gotta get all the junk out. Good. If you get it at the end of your shuffle, it's a lousy terminal copper, which is quite bad. I'm guessing, though, it's just a bad card because the variance is high, and you're unlikely to have that many green cards or curses that this really helps that much. I guess it's mainly intended as an anti-cursor. But it just seems a bit weak to me. I sort of like the idea, though. Okay, Diviner. Draw 2, get a buy. It's probably actually just playable for 3. Mode's not. Yeah, it's not very good, though. Okay, so let's see what's below the line. And whenever you buy something, you get to sort of oracle the top of your deck for the next turn. Yeah, it seems like a reasonable, pretty good card. Shoreline is the old $6 4VP, which I actually think is sort of boring. I mean, maybe it adds some depth, but okay. And then when you gain it, plus a buy. I mean, the problem with $6 4VP is that it just sort of overshadows Duchy, and makes Duchy dancing just really awkward and strange. Well, at the same time, like 3 of them offsets 2 provinces, which is probably the best thing it has going for it. But largely it just increases the total VP in play, so just sort of extends the game in that way. I mean, I guess maybe that's not terrible, but then when you gain it plus a buy on a 6-cost card, which doesn't do anything else for you, which seems sort of strange and tacked on. Yeah, so I don't like the cohesiveness so much, and I want something more interesting for this effect. So this top half isn't the worst ever, I guess. Okay, mill. Costs 5. It's non-terminal. Everybody else draws 1. And you get to gain a card costing up to 5. This is too good, isn't it? Because when you gain it, everybody else has to discard down to 3. So if you play it, you can Margrave attack them non-terminally, but you don't get the cards, which is alright. And then it can gain you 5 costs, including victory cards. So you can maybe just 3-pile with this. right? You use this to gain a bunch more of this. Let's say your opponent is not fighting you for them, because that's really the only interesting way to test a card. See if it's too powerful. If your opponent has to fight you, then it's too powerful. Okay, so you're just gaining these, and you're basically margraving them all the time. Although past the first, so past the first, you don't actually have to gain another one of these. You can gain something else. So I think this is probably a little bit too good. If it could gain itself, it'd be interesting. Yeah, I don't know. It's I guess sort of an interesting idea. I don't really like the on gain though. The on gain attack that's only an on gain attack. It just doesn't really, I don't know, rubs me the wrong way a little bit. Okay, traveling salesman. Discard any number of treasures. Draw 2 for each one. So, okay, interesting. Let's say I'm playing big money. Probably I discard all my coppers, and then I get to draw 2 cards for each one. So if I get this with 3 coppers, I gotta draw 6 cards. That seems quite good. And if I'm playing an engine, it seems hellaciously good. You know, if I only have 1 treasure, then it's sort of like worse stables. If I have 2 treasures, then I'm trading 3 cards and getting 4, which isn't great. If I have 3 treasures, I'm trading 3 cards and I'm trading with 2 treasures is 3 cards for 4. 3 treasures is 4 cards for 6. And engines can probably get that reasonably consistently. So, okay, the top is probably reasonable, interesting. I don't think it's super broken or anything. When another player gains a victory card, you can discard it. If you do, gain a card costing less than the gained victory card. Yeah, so the thing I don't like about that is it screws with their endgame pretty bad. They buy province and you might be able to get a duchy. So it's very dangerous for them to ever end the game or buy a victory card at all. So I think the below the line needs to be nerfed, because the above the line is already a card that I quite like, just as itself without any extra benefits. Yeah, so the below the line needs a nerfing, I think. And the above the line is great, but alright. Okay, Courier. Courier A, okay. Plus a card, plus an action. Discard any number of cards. So, okay, this is, earlier we saw Cantrip Cellar as a 5. Here this is Cantrip Secret Chamber as a 4. Which if Vault tells us anything, then this card, we can't base anything based on the Vault. Cantrip Secret Chamber is obviously a lot better than Secret Chamber, but Secret Chamber is terrible. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's a reasonable enough effect. When you would gain a card other than during your buy phase, you can discard this to gain a card costing up to 2 more than instead. Okay, so a Silver Flutter and this lets you gain 5 costs. A Workshop variant in this lets you gain 6 costs. But you have to discard this. I think that's fine. Yeah, this card is fine. I don't know that it has me super excited, but I think I like it better than a lot of the more recent cards. Anyway. Okay, Oicho Kabu. Yeah, that was not my card. I have no idea what this is. Okay, it's an action victory, costs 5. Terminal, well, it's a woodcutter. And then it's worth a VP, which would make it a 4 cost. While it's in play, when you buy a card, get a silver and discard the top card of your deck. If it's a victory card, trash this. Okay. So it makes you not get lots of victory cards, which I don't like that it trashes itself like that, but maybe that's needed. You're always having a buy when you have this in play. So when you buy a card, can... Wait a minute. This is a terminal 4, basically? It can be, that you might have to trash. So you play this, you buy a copper just to get 2 more, and then it's 4. And if you have a victory card on the top, you have to trash this guy. Yeah, wow, that's actually sort of powerful. Now, you do have to buy a copper for that. Yeah, yada yada. No, I quite like that, actually. You end up buying a cheap card. Or if you have extra stuff, then maybe not, but... I wish there was something better than trashing that if it were a victory card. But... well, I don't know. I like the idea anyway. Okay, Wayfarer. Gives you the market square on play effect as a 2 cost. Okay. That seems probably too good for a 2 cost. It's just much better than pawn in a lot of situations. Which, okay, that doesn't necessarily mean all that much, but when you buy it, you may trash a card from your hand. If you do, money equal to its cost in coins. So this one doesn't guarantee that you have a buy, but when you buy this, you can trash like an estate for it. Seems very good. This card is just too good, right? Should cost 3. And, well, I think it'd often be better than market square at 3. It could cost 3. And then I think, yeah, I don't know. It's not interesting enough. But it needs to cost 3, and then it's okay, but it doesn't do it for me. Okay, Sultan. It's a lab that makes you discard a card, so that brings you back to hand parity. Alright, that's fine, but obviously too weak for a 5, because lab exists. But when you gain it... okay, this mechanic people like, apparently. Everybody has this on their card. I don't know why. Yeah, when you gain it, you get to filter yourself. I don't know that that's really worth it for being that much weaker than lab. Maybe it is, because maybe it's not that much weaker. But it's not that much different for it to be interesting for me. A one-shot effect on something that's a little bit weaker than lab. And this one-shot effect particularly does not do it for me. Okay, Safe House. Safe House is just like Tunnel, except that instead of discarding this straight away, you have to buy a 0. So you buy a copper. Now, buying a copper to get a gold, is that worth it? No. I mean, sort of. 2 silvers is, I mean, yeah, it's definitely worth it for a big money deck. But you pretty much want some plus buys, and, well, I don't think you're going to make a deck based around doing that, so I don't think rushing these and then getting copper and gold, it would be good for a slog, don't get me wrong. Silk Road would love this card, because you rush these early, and then, oh no, I don't have any money. I buy copper and gain gold all the time. Gain a lot of gold, maybe. Well, I guess if you mass these, that might be a strategy, huh? So you gain, you just open this, 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 this. So you get about 4 of them. whenever you have too few, you buy a copper and gain a gold. Um, yeah, so you could get all of these and all the duchies pretty reasonably easily, I think. You gain, by the time you start getting 3 of these in hand, copper for 3 gold is quite good. Um, but it requires you to commit up front or have some plus. You know what? I like it. I like it. You either commit up front, and it's good for slogs, it's good if you have spare buys, or watchtower. Um, yeah, so maybe less overtly good, overtly obviously good in situations than tunnel. But, okay, so it's not a super powerful card. It has some nice, interesting interactions. I quite like it. Okay, Commander. It's a 1 VP worth less than a duchy. Um, okay, when you gain it, gain a reinforcement card on top of your deck. Okay. Add an extra kingdom pile costing 5 to supply. Cards from that are reinforcement cards and cannot be bought. Okay, I'm not sure why they're in the supply and not a separate thing. And there's 10 copies of this. That's not really a clarification, that's... well, I don't know what it is. Okay, so you can gain those cards other than through Commander if you get, like, Highway Ironworks or Altar or something. That's important to note. You can return them with Ambassador, which is never going to happen. So what about getting one of these to be able to gain those pretty often? So in general, I'm not really like a huge fan of cards like this in Young Witch that are trying to use the Young Witch effect to add more different cards to the supply, but this is reasonably interesting, I think. It's oh, only when you gain this? Never mind. Uh, yeah, I mean, tossing this in is just not going to be worth it, and then when you need victory cards, you're just going to get Duchy. I mean, sometimes if that card is just so much stronger than the other 5s on the board, you'll do it, but that's not this card making the game more interesting. That's I mean, not really. It's just, oh, I had another pile. Yeah, so I don't think I like that. If it were an action and you gained those, maybe it was worth less. Then I might go for it, but okay. Actually, maybe it wouldn't need to be worth less since it can only gain that thing. But I want it to be an action as well as a victory card. Okay, Midnight Gathering. Midnight Gathering. Costs 5, it's non-terminal. And tutors you up any card in your, any action in your deck. So it's a 5 cost, which non-terminally is any other action that you already have. That seems quite strong. Because it's more flexible than just having the other card. Obviously you need to get the other card first. This can also tutor up like 7 costs. What's the downside? There really is no downside compared to other action cards, right? In fact, it even works in Terminal Draw Big Money. Tutor up your smithy and play it, and you have no chance of drawing the second thing dead. So, I don't like that there's just really no downside. I guess the downside is if you're already drawing your deck with an engine, then this doesn't do anything for you. That seems like very small downside for a card. But it's obviously it's okay. I want my cards to have some situations where, well, no, this isn't good, and this is almost always as good as, you know, your next best action card, which means it's basically an always buy without breaking the game. So it's not like brokenly powered, but it's just too obviously good. It gives you some interesting play decisions, but you're always going to buy this after you have a few other decent actions. Um, if it were some kind of cost-restricted action card that you could pull, well, I guess you have to Chancellor yourself, huh? Which means you're going to miss the shuffle. I don't know. Maybe it's okay. Um, yeah, it seems like a pretty watered down downside, though. Alright, let's move on. Pasture. Costs 4, it's worth 2 victory points. Whenever another player gains a victory card, you may reveal this and discard it with... Okay. So, it's a victory card that is dead in your hand, but not when they buy victory cards. So if they buy a victory card, then it supercharges your next hand. Well, the problem is that that's a good effect, don't get me wrong. But I don't think it's good enough that you're ever going to buy this over Duchy. Which makes it not very interesting as a 4-cost victory card. Yeah. Okay, Trailblazer is a $4 workshop, 4-coin workshop. When you gain it, reveal the top 4. When you gain it, scout yourself, or slightly improved scout yourself. It's fine. I mean, it's just better than workshop on 4. I don't think you're hardly ever gaining this to do anything other than be a workshop, though, so that's just a bit too boring for me. Okay, bargain. Action 4. You may trash a card from your hand. You gain... Wait. You gain... So you trash a card from your hand. Then gain one that's 1 more, 2 more, and 3 more. So it's pretty bad at copper trashing because you have to get estates. It's pretty good at estate trashing because you get a silver, this, and a 5 at least. That's really good. Of course, you have to discard down to 2. And then when you gain this, everybody can trash. So that seems like tacked on to make it Hinterlandsy to me. I don't know. I think my biggest thing with this is there's just so much going on. Like the discard down to 2 is probably necessary, but I don't like it. It seems sort of weird and tacked on, and it's also phrased wrong, but that's okay. We'll forgive him that. Aren't those all discard cards until you have 2 cards in your hand? Which is most of the time just discarding 1 anyway if you started with this. I would much prefer this to cost 5 and not have the drawback. And then, yeah, this just still seems tacked on. I don't know. This part of it is interesting to me. The rest, not so much. Clairvoyance. Costs 3, it's not terminal. Okay. You can either make it a cantrip or make it a copper while probably discarding the top card of your deck, although you could also put it back. Then you can look through your hand. Well, you look through your discard pile and could put something from your hand or it on the bottom of your deck, which means it's probably missing the shuffle unless you number it out just perfectly. But it had already missed the shuffle, so I guess you mostly get it early next shuffle, sort of like Stash. Or you sort of maybe get it again this shuffle. That seems like a lot of different things going on, and a pretty weak effect. Because a lot of the times it's just going to be cantrip. Oh wait, no, it's going to be cantrip, put something back. You have to put something back, okay. But cantrip, put something back, and you can maybe make it not cantrip. You know what? If it were just cantrip, put something back, I think I would like it. I think it'd be an interesting effect. The weird, you can gain a money and discard it. I'm sure there's some self-combo thing that I'm missing, but it just seems sort of like strange and convoluted for no apparent reason. Alright, Fence. It's a $5 action, 5 cost action. While it's in play, when you gain a card costing exactly one more than it. Wow. That seems like a long way to go to get something worth exactly one more. So you get a 5 cost and a gold or something? That's pretty good, but you had to play a terminal nothing for it. I had this, well, I had a similar gaining more expensive cards effect, but it was quite a bit more powerful than this. That has to be exactly one more. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think this is almost ever going to be worth it. Because if this were a copper, you could have just got the more expensive card. If this were a haggler, you could have got both cards anyway, right? Unless you're gaining a bunch of cards. So I think it's just like quite too weak. Okay, Shaman. Plus an action, name a card. Reveal cards from your deck until you reveal an action card with that name. So if you don't name an action card, you are just chumping. And then it's a tutor for any action. And we had a tutor for any action earlier, right? In fact, that was a really similar effect. Where was that? Yeah, Midnight Gathering, right? Where are we? Shaman. This gives you the same thing, basically, but you don't discard your whole deck, and it's cheaper, which makes it really good. And then, okay, it lets them cellar themselves without having to play a cellar, which is a nice effect for them. That's a pretty nice drawback, but again, there's not that much downside. Although, there is some downside here, so I like this card more. I think it might be too good, but certainly if you cost it 5, it would be a quite interesting card, I think, at least. And at 4, with this drawback, it might be okay. Maybe a different drawback, but I like it. Not sure how Hinterlandsy it is, but I guess I could say that for most all these cards. Tinker's Wagon. It's another 4 cost workshop. This one, when you gain it, it's another one you gain it. Move a card costing between 3 and 6 from the top of one supply pile to the top of another. That is way out there. So you could cover up Duchy or Gold or the Power 5, and this card, you probably cover those, say you could cover those with a silver, and then you would use this to be able to like double gain that, to uncover it and then get to it in the same turn, which seems pretty good. I think it's a little bit too wacky for my tastes, but okay, interesting. Wow, there's a lot of cards left on this list. Okay, Thrift Shop. It's silver on an action, that... Oh, and it has a mat. If you play multiples, you can gain a card from the thrift shop mat. When you gain or play it, you get to put a 5 from the supply onto the thrift shop map, which is inherent pile trashing. Up to 5, okay. There's a communal one, so you sort of don't want to put anything good there, because your opponent's likely to get there first, although if they're not going for it, then you can use it. But, okay, it's largely just one of them is a silver that pile trashes and an action. Gold is just always going to be better than that, unless you want to pile trash, probably. But it lets you gain extra cards slowly, which probably makes this pretty good. So there's a lot going on. It's probably pretty strong. I don't really like it. There's too much going on. Extra mats, yeah. Okay, this one is a 5-cost workshop that gives you a buy. Okay, and when you gain it, you get a gold, and everybody else gets a silver. I don't think that's very good. Okay, gaining a gold is nice, making them gain a silver, so gaining the gold actually is nice, because you're clogging both of you up, but plus a buy workshop is just so weak. Well, maybe not. I don't know, maybe you can use this in a big money deck. For a engine, do you want the gold? I don't know. I guess it's fine. I'm sure it's fine. It's not interesting enough for me, also. And again, is it Hinterlandsy? I don't know. Maybe it is. Okay. This is Construct's a 3-cost. Trash a card from your hand, gaining 2 cards that cost exactly 1 more than it. Ah, so it's like the opposite of Remake. And when you gain it during your action phase, plus a card, plus an action. So you play this on an estate, and you can sort of like double lab and village yourself or something if you gain these more. Or you could just gain silvers. I wish it was just when you gained it. I mean, I guess it doesn't really make a difference, because if you gain it during your buy phase, the card in action won't do anything anyway, except just cycle you randomly. So I like the top idea. Not sure about the bottom, seems a little wacky, but I really like the top idea. Okay, Missionary. Reveal cards from your deck until you... Wait, is this top not... Oh, I guess you don't top deck them, so it's not just better than develop, but okay. Missionary. Reveal cards from the top of your deck until you reveal a victory card. Okay. Gain an action or treasure costing up to the victory card's cost, putting it onto your... So you top deck it. Discard the revealed cards. So this encourages you to... Okay, let's read the bottom first. When you buy it, reveal a card from your hand. If that costs 6 or less, gain a copy. Wow, that's a really strong on-buy effect, actually. You get a duplicate... Well, okay, you had to hold back that expensive card, so it's not that strong. But it could get you a duchy. So I guess, yeah, which would largely be what you're doing this for, right? Is Alt VP or duchy. And yeah, so this card is really good once you have some reasonably expensive victory cards and bad before that. So then the question becomes, is it good enough to get them earlier? If it's not, I think it's still a fine card, right? You get an early province, you have this, you can use it to gain stuff. That's sort of like an improved tournament because it always hits, but it doesn't give you, the prize it gives you isn't as good. I think I quite like this. I'm not sure how it is power level wise, but I definitely like the idea. Okay, Chapter House. It is copper, and then draw up to 6, which probably is draw 2, discard 2, at least the first time. So it makes it like a peddler, except that it filters, which is reasonably interesting. And then when you buy it, everybody else draws a card. And when you gain it, they'll discard a card, unless they have too few. So they get a little bit of filtering. That's fine, and I like that kind of effect. I don't know that it really fits here, but I mean, I'm sure it's fine here. It's just, it doesn't say, oh, yeah, those parts go together. Like, I guess it's a similar kind of effect as to what you're giving yourself, so. Okay, I like that one. Barn. 5 cost. Action. Cantrip. Discard a card. If you discarded a victory or curse, gain a treasure costing up to 4 seems like a weird number there. So it's a cantrip. Silver Flutter if you have victory or curse cards. Oh, you have to discard one of those. Otherwise, you have to discard like a treasure. So you discard a copper. It gives you the money back. And you gain a cheap victory card. Okay. And you put the gained card in your hand. So you're mostly discarding victories or curses and gaining silver in hand. So it's like a grand market where you had to discard one of those things. Hey, that's not bad at all. But then you can also get a money in. So you can use this as like an alt VP in an alt VP deck. Okay, that's interesting enough. When you gain it, gain an action card costing up to 4, top decking it. I don't know why putting it onto your deck, is that how Nomad Camp is phrased? I thought it was on top of your deck. Anyway, all these cards have that phrasing, so I'm guessing either that's what they were edited to, or, well, anyway. Yeah, I like this. That little buff is probably necessary. But you know what? This is a good looking card. Maybe it needs to cost 6, we'll see. But I like it. Huntsman is a 0-star, and it's action and buy, so like a weak pawn option. When you gain it, +2 buys. And during your buy phase only, so that peddler thing, it costs 2 more for each card you've gained this turn. So you can't just pile it out. Okay, but you can always pick one up to be a pretty bad card in your deck. But if you need buys, so it'll provide you those. So that's a reasonable way to do this. Yeah, that's fine. Not terribly exciting to me, but it's fine. I guess I don't really like that it's always, whenever you need 3 buys, you can get them. Just so you don't have to worry about the buys, you can just tra-la-la-la-la, I build my engine, I get a bunch of money, and oh, I'm fine. Yeah, I don't really like that. I feel like you should have to, you know, buy Herbalist for 11 right? That's one of the great things about Dominion. Okay, painful journey. Painful journey. Painful journey. You are one of these things people like to do with curses. So it's an action, curse, reaction. Costs 4. Discard any number of curses to draw 2 of those. It's worth minus a VP. Wow, that is a lot of stuff going on. There should be a G here. Somebody missed that on their editing. Costin. Oh, maybe an apostrophe, right? Stick an apostrophe there. So you can trash this to gain 2 curses? Like, but you can't even get as good of a victory card as you wanted? Why would you want to do that? Unless all those curses were already out. I don't think that playing for a lot of curses in these is good. In fact, I'm quite sure it's not. So, all in all, I think this is just a terribly weak card, which can't really be salvaged. I don't like Curse for benefit for the 1000th time. Anyway, okay. Wagon Raider. Costs 4. Each other player may put a card costing more than 2 from their hand into your discard pile. If he doesn't, he gains a curse. So he buys scouts and gives them to you, plays with smaller hands, so mostly he's just gaining the curse, which makes this a little bit worse than Sea Hag. But there's the below the line of while it's in play and you buy a gold, you can gain a province. That just seems like too random to me. Maybe it's not. Well, maybe, I mean, if you could ever just buy the province anyway, you can buy the gold, and that's probably better. So, I don't know, seems a little good. Yeah, just not my favorite card. Okay, Nomadic Village. It's a village. Ooh, it's also a reaction. When you gain it, put it in your hand. I like that. Although it only affects mid-turn gains, like if you gain it by buying it, that doesn't help you at all. Okay. When an opponent gains an action card, you can discard this and grab any action. That's fine. This seems weird. But, okay, as a village that you can react like this, that seems fine. Stranger. This is Market Square. Each other player discards the top card of whose deck. Copies of cards revealed that way cost 2 less this turn, but not less than 0. Okay. I want a clarification. If 2 other players reveal province, does it cost 4 less? Okay. So, anyway, this card's got to be pretty good. You play a bunch of them, and, well, especially if you're playing like a 4-player game, there's probably gonna be a card you want that's now really cheap, and you have buys. Yeah, this will lead to lightning fast games, and it doesn't scale well with players, and I think it's probably a bit strong. I mean, not early on, because you'll be discarding coppers and estates, and who cares? Although you could pile the estates, because they'll be free. But that's obviously not going to be a very good strategy. But, you know, eventually it'll be really good. I mean, it's probably fine for 2-player. Pretty darn good against engines, because they will have pretty much all cards you want. Sort of swingy. but just too good in high player. I guess you could say the same thing about Jester, but I think this more so. Okay, Courier. Um, Action and a buy. When you discard it from play, if you bought no more than one card this turn, you can. So it's like Walled Village, except I don't think I want this card. This card's terrible. Like I wouldn't want it anyway. It's it's a limited pawn that I can return back if it wasn't useful. Yeah, this card's I don't think I ever want this card. It's terrible. Um, and also uninteresting. This is just the Walled Village effect, and I don't think it's super interesting on a 2 costs action buy. Okay, Sawmill. Um, Another action buy. When you gain it, set aside on your Sawmill mat. At the start of each of your turns. Whoa! You need to make this some kind of rule that just if it's even in the kingdom. I also don't like the extra mat, but anyway. You can put any number of cards from your mat under your hand. Okay. Well, I like that a lot better than the one before, but I also don't like this. Also, haven't I seen this before? Okay, so cool. Now, Pyramid. So you gain extra copies of it when you buy it. So you get them 2 at a time. And it is an Oasis, which turns into better than Oasis. You filter more, the more of them you have. Which I quite like. Because the thing is, obviously just getting lots of them isn't great, because you end up discarding all your cards. But actually getting lots of them is not the worst thing ever, because it's really good early on. Like you go open this silver, you can get, you start to get golds, and then you get lots of these and golds, and boom, 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 boom. You play, what, 2 of these and search for a gold. Maybe if you play 3 of these, you need a gold and a silver. You can do that. And in an engine, you can hunt for, okay, then village and smithy, and village and smithy, and this. And then you get to play a lot of these, and you get very good filtering to draw all your deck. So this card is, I think, maybe a little bit too strong as a 4. It should either have a drawback, somewhat bigger, slightly bigger drawback, or, but very slightly, or cost 5. Although cost 5, it's probably a little bit too weak. So just a little bit of a tweak, but I do like it. Okay, Lucky Coin. Almost done here. Lucky Coin costs 4, it's worth 1. When you gain it, you get to attack. So it's a political attack, and it's terrible for you just to make them discard a good card once. So it's also not a good card, I don't think. Should probably cost 2. And then that targeted attack, yeah, I don't really like. Okay. Used Land Salesman. Alright, that's not a very Dominion-y name. And okay, whatever. It's an action, it costs 5 plus 4 cards, so below the line should be a drawback. Right? And while it's in play, when you buy a card, gain a victory card costing less. This should be card, not cards. Costing less than the bought card. Okay. So, is that a drawback? I guess it is. I guess if you're buying province and you want like lots of points, it could be really good at the end of the game, right? But earlier in the game, well, let's see. Can you build an engine with it? You certainly can if there's like a great hall around, right? Because then you're always buying something 4 or more, and you gain the great hall, and no big deal. Um, and I guess it'd be sort of good for slogs. You can like get a few different victory cards, or more victory cards, extra victory cards. So that's fine. Um, and then like I guess if we compare to Haggler you have to gain a cheaper card, but it can't be a victory. Here, or like Horde, right? Horde, you buy a duchy and you get a gold. This, you could buy a gold and get a duchy. Um, if you get up to 6. Um, I guess that's okay. Golden Duchy isn't the strongest thing on Horde. Horde costs 6. I guess this sort of curbs itself too, because you always have to be getting those victory cards, which makes drawing cards worse. I'm a little leery that this is overpowered, but it's at least interesting, and maybe it's underpowered, although I sort of doubt it. 4 cards is really good. Alright, that's my thoughts. Took a long time, and I'll get back to you later. Bye.